Going live, and we are live. Cloud Foundry After Dark. It's me, Andrew Clay Schaefer, and we're joined by the one, the only James Waters. We have a new co-conspirator tonight. We're going to talk about some data.
Important one.
Savvy,
Sabi, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Sabi Anandan, product manager for Spring XT.
you're over in London.
What's that, Andrew?
No, he said he's Sabi Anandan. It's his last name.
Oh, it's last name.
Not
Yes,
Sabi.
wait. Let's go.
You're not in
All
London.
right.
Where are you? I don't even know exactly where you hang out.
I work from San Francisco office.
That's what I thought. I was in the office. I thought you were here.
That's right, yeah. I actually live in San Francisco.
That's what I thought.
There are worse problems to have. So, Cloud Foundry, how'd it go this week? Anything interesting? I just saw the NFL playoff game had a Blue Mix advertisement.
Yeah, that gets our guys pumped up when they see IBM putting NFL ad money into their Cloud Foundry service. I think it makes the team realize like what the stage of the world we're on in terms of this generational shift and how big the stakes are. So it's pretty fun because something about cultural rituals like NFL football are significant to people. Not to me, but to a lot of people. They're kind of a marker of, well, that matters. So it's cool that IBM is pumping the money into it.
You can measure that in real dollars.
You could also put $1 billion in a bag and put kerosene on it and burn it, and that would be similar. Like, whoa, dude, that was real money behind that. But it doesn't mean it's truly significant.
See how you are. So there's other stuff going on that we have to be quiet about, but I'm pretty stoked about where we're going to see the Cloud Foundry Foundation.
Are you talking about the executive director that's been hired for the Cloud Foundry Foundation that's off the charts amazing?
Maybe.
That's pretty exciting. That's pretty exciting. We should get him to come on the Hangout after he starts and toil with us on our 3-viewer Google Hangout channel.
That's right. That's right. It's gonna be so. I don't think there's a better person, honestly.
Couldn't have been.
Not on planet Earth.
It's like if you want someone that understands like open source and building APIs to transform businesses.
That guy. Get that guy.
Would that be good?
That could be great.
Yeah.
Well, let's see what Savvy has to say about the data kind of stuff. I mean, one of the things you got to do if you're going to build apps is have some data. So,
Yeah, and not just like traditional relational data or even like standard, say, NoSQL operational data. Like there's whole other ways of thinking about it, and it'd be
I
good.
mean, that stuff was fun 20 years ago, but we live in the cloud now.
Yeah, it'd be good to get Savvy's perspective on kind of the data use cases he sees in his day-to-day job, and maybe get into how it could combine with CF in the near term.
Absolutely, yeah. I guess probably I'll just start with a real brief overview of what Spring XT does, and perhaps that might set the stage a little bit, and probably we can touch on how this can be operationalized in Cloud Foundry and cloud in general. So that how it can help the enterprises build more data-centric apps in a more seamless and more productive manner. So I'm just going to share a couple of slides just to walk you guys through on that. Let's see. Screen share.
Wow, someone who knows how to use Hangout UI. That's.
Can you guys see my screen?
I can.
All right, perfect. I guess the real quick the problem in big data, right? I mean, enterprises, when we go talk to them about data, how they want to make use of the data. Several challenges. The highlights that I captured in this slide are usually based on the data that is happening in real time. They want to be able to like do something with that data and do some interesting things based on that data. And they also have a whole truckload of data in offline. It can be in database, it can be in file system, or it can be any other binary or binary codec format. How do we get all this data in one place? So that's the biggest challenge, right? Most of the big data platforms that are out there, they often have to go and find different tools for different things. One, okay, so you have this tool for real-time data ingest, and you have all this offline data sitting somewhere, and also more relational database like things that are sitting there. How to triage all of them, how to bring them all together. So that's the biggest challenge. And again, the second bullet that I have is fragmented big data ecosystem. It's going with the same point. You have different tools for different things. People get confused about it. Enterprises get confused about it. It's a lot of learning curve there. And again, the last bullet, not everybody talks about big data and they think, oh, it's all Hadoop. No, not really. You probably want to write somewhere some other database, or you want to be able to convert and transform and filter and triage it in such a way that apps can seamlessly consume from it. So these are high-level challenges that enterprises usually face.
Yep.
So what really happens is, with this slide, I'll just stop and talk about the Cloud Foundry. But to challenge those, to tackle those challenges, Spring XD as a unified runtime combines the stream aspect of it as well as the batch aspect of it. We do provide all out-of-the-box adapters, not just consume data from real-time database or even file system, or even from Hadoop-like ecosystem of products, or even binary formats, or any other unstructured data. We have out-of-the-box adapters to consume all that in one place. And we offer this unified solution for streaming. Streaming is continuous data. It's happening right now. And batch is nothing but the offline data that we talked about. We have this unified platform that combines both of them together in one place, and you have this pipeline where you can do interesting things. And at the same time, once you have that data in pipeline, you have the ability to put the analytics and do some model scoring. Some machine learning and data mining aspects can be applied on top of that, so that enterprises can do real-time business adjustments. They can control their operation in real time. And going back to the fragmented big data ecosystem, people, again, several tools are out there. People have to worry about maintaining them, learning curve involved. Spring XT is a single out-of-the-box runtime, can be deployed on-prem as well as any other JVM environment like Yarn, EC2, and Pivot Cloud Foundry, and even as a Docker image. So Spring XT basically runs where there is JVM. Yep. That's something it's inherent, and we just make sure enterprises get that seamless experience when you port this runtime. And that's something that is a challenge with other big data ecosystem products. The last, not all data is Hadoop bound. Spring XT building upon Spring integration and Spring Batch. It's been out there in enterprise for about 8 years now. It tackles all kinds of use cases, whether it's volume, velocity, veracity, ranging from classic enterprises all the way to big data and IoT. We have solution, it's out of the box available, and it enhances developer productivity by a rich DSL language. You just pull up a shell and then you write the stream definition, which is one line, can basically write all the data, whether it's from HTTP or binary format or database into Hadoop or wide variety of data sources. So that's in a nutshell what Spring XT runtime provides.
Yeah.
Any questions on this so far, guys?
Tons of questions.
Yeah.
How would you frame this in comparison to the other, Stream, like the rest of the ecosystem, Spark or Storm, some of these other things, Esper even, what people are doing? Can you kind of frame, just to anchor the conversation, what we're talking about with Spring XD with the rest of those other options? Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we can have this detailed analysis on each of these products feature by feature. But the closest comparable products, I would say, like Spark Streaming, Apache Storm, and even some of the cloud players like Amazon Kinesis and Amazon Data Pipeline. When we look at these products in comparison with what we have, and especially if I let me go one by one. Maybe I'll talk about Storm a little bit.
Storm,
You can stop sharing your screen so I don't have to see two Jameses. That'd be cool.
Ah!
All right, stop it. Okay, so yeah, Storm in comparison, right? I mean, it follows a similar paradigm where you have a runtime where you can combine the real-time streams with batch data, and the whole Lambda architecture where you can bring all this data in one place, and there's speed layer where you write the data to the apps that want to react in real-time manner, and there's a master data set that is Hadoop, and there's this batch data where you actually ingest the data in for later use or for reasons of historical snapshot you want to bring back and into the pipeline and do some interesting things. Spring XT, if you compare some of those patterns, what Storm does, we have out-of-the-box rich adapters, right? So that's all inherited from Spring integrations. I just did a count last night. You can create over 500 workflows, 500 data pipelines out of the box. That is without writing a single piece of code.
Yeah.
The other big thing is, if you go on the Storm, when you create a topology, you have to write this Java object, and you have to build it, you have to package it, and then you have to deploy it as one single unit of work. Where in Spring XT, you just go to this DSL, you pull it up, and then create the stream definition, and then you deploy it, and that's pretty much it. And if you wanna, that's a running pipeline, and if you want to make some modifications to it, you don't have to bring down the whole runtime. You don't have to bring down the whole topology, and that's what you have to do on the Storm side. You have to again rebuild and bundle and package and then deploy this topology all over. Where in the Spring XT land, you just have this REST API. You can individually evolve this module by just using this REST API, give this updated bits to it. You'll just in isolation, it'll update that aspect of it. So that's in a high level. I can share a couple of points from Storm's perspective. And Spark streaming, specifically Spark and Spark streaming. So we've been going back and forth in terms of feature by feature comparison. Obviously, Spark has this rich, unified functional programming model where you can do all this interesting machine learning or even like heavy lifting of complex data computations out of the box. And we are not necessarily building features to replicate that in Spring XT. Rather, we see that as a complementary option there. So what we do is we have this out-of-the-box Spark streaming processor. So when you use the Spring XT's DSL command, when you create a stream, you consume all this data, fan in all this data in the pipeline, and then you give that data to a Spark streaming processor that's built out of the box, that's available in Spring XT's runtime. And Spark streaming in its own cluster to do all this interesting machine learning things. And that feedback comes back to Spring XT, and it goes back into our pipeline. And that feedback could be like this predictive model, some predictive analytics, or even some heavy data computation that needs to be done efficiently by Spark cluster. That feedback is in our pipeline, and that feedback can be triaged out for apps to consume. So in essence, what we are trying to do is we are giving a more robust orchestration layer for Spark streaming and Spark jobs, so that the life cycle is automatically managed. And going back to this bullet on fragmented Hadoop ecosystem, you don't necessarily have to worry about each of those products, how to set it up, how to set the infrastructure. Spring XT will do it automatically for you. So all you have to do is just point to this data. Hey, this is where my data is, and you have all these fleet of options to choose from. How do you want this data to be munged or wrangled, so that you can make your decisions based on your specific requirements and use cases. We don't want to necessarily force you to use this tool a specific way. Rather, we want to give you options to choose what makes the most sense for you. So that's how we see Spark and Spark streaming in our runtime. And if you use Spark streaming on standalone, in fact, we've been struggling with it for the past 1 month while building this processor out of the box. The lifecycle management Spark streaming is not good enough. It's not production ready. If you want to let Spark streaming do something, and it's not reliable, and there are some JIRAs out there, and they're actively fixing it as we speak. And the ability to stop a Spark job, that's not production grade yet. And such JIRAs, we've been closely following it, and we trying to closely integrate with Spark Streaming and Spark at low level, we try and uncover such gaps, and we've been creating GRs in Spark and trying to collaborate there. But yeah, the goal is we're not forcing enterprise or users to use a specific project or a product for some use case. We just make it open and extensible so people can just adopt what makes sense for them.
Yeah, I think what's interesting to me is what this could become in terms of a more packaged service. Like you talked about the DSL and the pre-selected integrations you could use. It seems like between using raw Spark and using Spring XD as a service in CF in the future, you'd be a lot closer to out-of-the-box kind of streaming analytics, etc. Do you want to talk a little bit about the productivity differences? You mentioned a little bit about DSL versus how it worked, but
right.
I think give people an order of magnitude simplicity comparison between those two approaches.
I mean, the two things I've had questions about since we started is one is on like the infrastructure side, kind of like what it looks like to set it up, and what's the overhead there, and maybe even some benchmarking and like how this kind of stuff's working. And then the other side is I'm really curious to see a couple working examples of what the DSL and what that workflow looks like from the developer side. So those are the two things I'm most interested in.
Sure. Let me address James's question on Cloud Foundry, especially in regards to the developer productivity. And then I'll go back to this, Andrew. I'll pull up the shell. I'll demonstrate a few examples probably that might resonate better.
Boom.
So the Cloud Foundry aspect is absolutely exciting for us because, one, the Spring XD, the OSS, on-prem deployment that we do, it comes with out-of-the-box non-functional requirements. It is highly available, it is fault-tolerant, and it supports reliability and resilience semantics. And so we build that and we make sure it's production grade, right? And once we take this model and deploy it in Cloud Foundry, we get a whole new suite of assets that's part of the Cloud Foundry Foundation. You get the Ops Manager, the UI to monitor, you have this metrics logging, and further robust elastic runtime to scale out and scale in. That's absolutely exciting for us because Spring XD's runtime is one component, which is XD containers. It's container, where you actually horizontally scale, and that just makes it absolutely easy for customers to use when it just as a service, right? And you just open up the Ops Manager, you just scale it out from 3 to 30 to 300 in a matter of seconds. You have all those things established, and the topology, the screens or the jobs that is running as a pipeline, you can instantly scale up and scale down once it is in Cloud Foundry model. So that's absolutely exciting. So you don't necessarily have to really sit and worry about the infrastructure or even worry about the orchestration. You don't have to bring down this running to pipeline. And it's already production ready and it's 24/7. It's running with the full non-functional requirement. But if you want to scale out on some ad hoc basis, you have that. And it sort of makes even more sense once it's multi-tenant. And customers would want to sort of give provision, okay, 10 containers, I want to do some heavy lifting, complex data computation using Spark. There you go. You just have this containers just seamlessly provisioned for this specific business unit. And then they can do all this heavy lifting. And once the job is done, you can bring it down. You're not using that resource, right? And you can utilize it for something else. So that model is absolutely, we have a lot of demand for that. Plus, going back to the developer productivity thing, you have this DSL, so you don't necessarily have to sit and code anything at all. The second aspect is if you want to independently evolve, like you have this a stream that has a source, processor, and sink. These are the three modules as part of the stream definition. And you want this processor module that did some interesting thing, and you want to update that in standalone without having to bring down the runtime, for example. So you can version that. You can have a new processor module deployed using a REST API. You're not coding anything. You're not bringing down things. You just have this REST API, and you have this bundled jar or some artifact that you're giving it to this REST API, and it's going to go deploy and do its magic, and it's available for the pipeline. So you just fork that, use our Spring XD tap semantic, and route that data to this new version of processor with updated business logic. So that's going to be absolutely helpful for enterprises, especially when they're thinking about making it production ready and running.
And it's already done very well in early pilots. I mean, so we have one of the top credit card companies in the United States already looking at using XD with CF, and I think we have one of the largest manufacturing companies in Germany that's using XD as part of their IoT strategy as well on CF. So I think it's going to be an interesting marriage, and it's really fascinating to me, these new app patterns that are not CRUD, right? Like, this is completely away from like the Heroku style platforms of service thinking. And certainly Amazon's gone there with some of their work, but I'm pretty excited to see CF having assets like XD to integrate with.
Absolutely. I mean, again, putting some comparison with some of the products out there, the cloud products like Amazon Kinesis or Data Pipeline, you still have to open up this XML or JSON-like file to fill in all the dots. Like, this is where the source is, this is the processor, this is the sync. You still are doing some manual work. You don't necessarily have to do that. And that's something you need to abstract away from developers when they want to instantly get an app up and running. You just use our high-level DSL or our admin UI to create such flows. So yeah, I mean that's absolutely an important thing, and we are having so much in backlog to further enhance that developer productivity going forward.
Do you have any slides, or is it easy to do like a little demonstration of the?
Yeah, let me try doing this DSL. All right, let me share the screen again. All right. So I have XD running in my local machine. There are a few peripherals that are necessary.
We don't see your screen yet.
I do.
You do?
He's running.
I got it now.
2.8.19 stand-alone mode on 5379. Unless I'm imagining that.
Okay. Do you see the screen now, Andrew?
I do.
All right, so there are some peripherals that are necessary. I'm not going to go in details there. There's Zookeeper that is necessary, I'm running, and there's a database that is necessary. I'm running a SQL database here. So XD has a few main components. So that's XD admin. So that's the REST server that you actually interact with. And then the containers is the one that we talked about that you can horizontally scale. This is where the actual business logic gets deployed. This is again a REST server. Excuse me. I have it running. I have two containers running locally. The shell that we talked about, I'm going to switching tabs here. Can you see my tab now? I mean screen now?
Yes.
All right. So this is our XD shell. Here, as you can see, it's a terminal window. All I'm doing is there's a tabbed out. You have all these options coming up. Just excuse me. All right.
Welcome to XD console. Command line.
All right. So, excuse me. Sorry about that. I got my cough. All right, so this is the terminal. Not again. All right, it's better now. Okay, so you have autofills coming up, as you can see. I'm doing a module list. So these are all the out-of-the-box modules that we talked about. This first column is all the source modules. This is nothing but you actually consume all the data from all the sources. I'll expand a little. So database.
If a developer just wanted to write an app that looked for events in Twitter search results,
right?
That just plugs in out of the box, right?
Exactly. So all you have to do is you have to go to this YAML file, give your Twitter credentials, username and password.
Yep.
And then use that source module. That's it.
So Twitter stream is going to be from the perspective of whatever you're logged in, and Twitter search is going to be on some terms. Is that what that is?
That's correct. So Twitter stream is nothing but you're actually consuming the tweets in real time and ingesting all that data and pipeline. So once that data is in pipeline, so you can actually give it to any of these processor. It's the second column here. You can aggregate some data, you can filter it, you can split the data, you can transform that data to interesting things. And again, you can add any custom processor here, any custom source here. So everything is extensible.
Yeah, and one thing I'd like to add is the extension is fairly simple. In fact, recently we added an extension. I think there's a pull request on it to simulate a large number of devices. So you specify an easy YAML file. You can define the PDF, the probability distribution function, and then you define how the data needs to be sent, and it can just send off a stream. So it's great for simulating a large IoT or a large device network. And I think that's also in the open source, but pretty cool.
So that's a processor, or that's a source?
Source.
Yes, so what Ani is referring to, Andrew, is you can technically add any new source, any new processor, or a sink, or a job. It's all customizable. You can have your own flavor in it. So yeah, once you consume the source, it's in a processor, and you want to write it somewhere, so that is a sink. Out of the box, you can write to all these sinks that are out there. All you have to do is give the actual credentials, where the host and port are, the username and password, things like that. So that's part of the YAML that you have to specify. Other than that, if I want to, do a simple demonstration, right? I'm creating so this is how you create a screen. And all you do is you can, within this double quote, you can actually specify what the source is. I'm just going to say time source. And you can actually do any processor. Let's just say I don't want to process any data right now. So I'm interested in actually logging time. A simple hello world use case, right? And this is it. So this one line actually deploys the stream. So as soon as I deploy it, I go back to my containers. As you can see, that time is getting logged. So this is what we talk about the shell and how it helps developers get all this pipelines created and seamlessly. And again, once this is deployed, you can actually go to your admin UI, so you can technically see the containers. So these are the two containers that I'm running, and this is the admin UI that is part of our open source version.
So what determined how fast that would run, the time?
What do you mean? What determined?
Like so you said definition time.
Right.
You piping it to the log, but
right.
what's the thing that sets how fast or how often it will run the?
Oh, by default, it's every second. So, for example, if I can change it, obviously. This is just the documentation. By default, it is seconds. I can change this time unit to run in milliseconds or minutes or whatever. So so it goes with the default setting. That's why it's logging time every second.
Well, the more important thing is it's dependent on the source.
So that's pretty much that's what you see in this UI too. So the foo is the stream that we deployed, and time is the source, and log is the sink, and Spring XT automatically, load balances, distributes those modules between the containers, and that's why you see time in the first container and log in the second container. And if I can enable the message rates, you would be able to see the actual, the rates between the source and processor. The rate is nothing but this pipe here in the shell. Is actually the message bus. It's the transport bus. So that's like, people familiar with Linux, you just do like Linux filter pipes and filter semantics. We adapt it to that model. So this module and this module, it's loosely coupled, and there's a message bus sitting between that helps in transmitting this data, transmitting this payload from one module to another. So you can chain this from any one source to any number of processor to one sink. And again, this is one real-time stream, and you can technically tap the stream. Tap is nothing but you're just giving this data that's flowing in this pipe to another stream, and you can, without impacting the original stream of data, you can do other interesting things, like ad hoc machine learning or things like that. Does that make sense?
Definitely.
All right. let's see. So these three columns, the first three columns that you see there that are typically used as a stream, it's nothing but real-time data that you want to ingest and do some. With the last column that you see there, it's nothing but out-of-the-box batch jobs. So this is where you want to do some more heavy lifting data sets, large volumes of data set that you want to be able to, say for example, from database, I want to write it to Hadoop. And this is the job that you would use there. You have rich features such as like remote partitioning. That's like how you want to partition this data and how much you want to parallelize them so that you have the most performant pipe created that can write data from database all the way to Hadoop. And once again. The out-of-the-box job that you see there, this is just the finite set, but you can create your own batch job. And once you have that job deployed here, you will see that custom job or custom sink or processor or source. As you can see, Spark is as we see as a complementary aspect. We have Spark app, that is, we delegate this interesting complex computation that you want to do with Spark. The Spark cluster will be deployed elsewhere, and Spring XT will connect to that cluster, and the driver program will run in Spring XT's runtime, and the driver will negotiate all the worker nodes that is in Spark cluster, and do all the business logic in the cluster, all the taking advantage of Spark APIs there, all the RDD concepts, and get the data back in. The feedback will come back to the Spring XT pipeline, and you can actually operationalize that use case. So yeah, that's a pretty straightforward Hello World example. Any questions so far, guys?
So you correct me if this is wrong, but the way I'm kind of seeing this is it's like a pre-integrated usability tool. Like it helps connect all these other things and makes them more operationally useful.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can take it that way too, right? I mean, the whole goal is, you don't want to worry about individual products for use cases. As a one-stop shop, we want to make that easy and seamless for users and enterprises. And everything is ready for you guys. The adapters are ready, the processing units are there ready. Only if you want to do more complex things, there are some hooks there that you just leverage that. You don't have to go reinvent your own thing, and we're trying to make people realize that this platform can help orchestrate all kinds of data workloads. So you worry about your business logic, not worry about infrastructure or other peripherals. We'll take care of it.
Yes.
I have a question about go ahead.
No,
Sorry.
go ahead. Sorry.
I'm just looking at these modules. So you do the list of the modules.
Right.
And is that representing what's installed, or that's what's available? Like, how does that map to what you'd be able to use, and what would you need to be able to parameterize? Say you want to connect to Kafka or Gemfire or something like that. So.
Sure. Yeah. So all the list that I'm showing here, this is actually I'm on the master now. Yeah. So 1.1, it's actually getting released coming Tuesday. So these are all available, and it's the new ones that we added recently is the scoop as a job. So other than that, all the sources and all the modules that you see there were available, at least till GA that happened July last year. So the specifics about each of those sources and then the sink and processor, everything is heavily documented, right? So if you go to our wiki page and GitHub, you can see all those things, all those modules listed, and the specific examples, how to use them. It's out there, right? And we also have a samples repo where we demonstrate more concrete examples on how to use that. If we go to the XT examples, so we have a bunch of use cases that we actually tap into.
Interesting.
Any other questions so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing I want to do is like a Hello World on Twitter, where you just watch a stream for something and you start to get into what you can do with the stream on Twitter. Do you want to?
Yeah.
Sure. I think that's a good thing where you're like, okay, everyone understands intuitively what a Twitter stream looks like.
Right.
Every time it says Cloud Foundry, I want to do this, or I want to wait for 8 Cloud Foundries to happen and then do this. or
Right.
like it'd be good for people to understand the kind of filters or the kind of things that you might look to do with the stream.
Right. Because I was running on master, I did not have the credentials set up, so I'm just going to copy those credentials. So just bear with me for a minute. This is the actual runtime. As you can see, several versions of Spring XD installed on my machine. It's just typical project structure of bin and lib folders. I'm just going to the config folder to mine through the actual. To find the actual source, Twitter stream. So this is the property file where you specify the credentials, the consumer key and consumer secret. So this is my developer account, so I'm just copying that. Whoops. Going back to which version I'm running from the master. Let's make sure. Just have to meanwhile, if you have any other question while I'm setting it up, we can talk about that.
Man, this is after dark. We only have like one viewer a week, so we take time and just talk about whatever we want.
Yeah, I was just going to make a comment. This was the first time we got into the live coding, so no pressure.
All right, let's see if I can get it right.
And that's the key point with XD. It's not live coding. It's mostly config at this point, right? You're just creating a bunch of pipes. So the only tricky part here is this one. You can either specify that the consumer key and all that as command line params, but it's just easier to put it in a properties file, so you can reference that.
Yeah.
So Arnie or Savvy, what's the projects that are using this that you could talk about, or who's doing the most interesting thing with this so far?
Go ahead, Savvy.
Yeah, there's a bunch of users. Enterprises who, so specifically for IoT, we have several customers. Unfortunately, everybody's in NDA right now. They are using it to consume all this data in real time and do some predictive analytics in real time, and find the outliers and do some dynamic business decisions. That's definitely is prominent, and we see that repetitive and across the enterprise. In fact, one of the connected car demo that we did, essentially collecting car vitals in real time. We were ingesting, what the current car's accelerator, the fuel level, capacity, mileage, and so on and so forth, and we were actually consuming that in pipeline and writing it in in-memory data store like Gemfire, and had a REST sitting on top of that and updating a real-time view of a map where the car is actually driving. And we were also doing, while this data was being ingested, we were also trying to predict where this car is heading towards, based on some historical, driving patterns, where the driver was in the last 2-3 weeks. The algorithm used such criteria to determine where he or she probably is heading now. So that is another repetitive use case that we see happening. Other than that, more real time, trying to find where the bottleneck is, make some dynamic business adjustments. That is another popular use case. The more crude or rather classic enterprise use case is to data move from a relational database all the way to Hadoop. When people come to Pivotal, we have a fleet of portfolio of products that do all heavy lifting in its own field. Like for example, Gemfire did in memory. We have a Hadoop distribution. We have a Hawk as SQL on top of Hadoop that helps you do some ad hoc querying. So once people want to do such or leverage such products, they want to land the data somewhere. So that's where Spring XD comes very handy. You can consume all heterogeneous data sources, whether structured or unstructured, and bring it in a pipeline, put it in data lake, and have the products tap into that data and do its magic and let users absorb that. So
I'm imagining the alternative, Andrew. Like, imagine you just go to Heroku today, right, and you want to write something that watches the Twitter stream for patterns and learns. Like, do you know how much work you'd have to do to shove that in and out of Postgres, and like just how hard it would be to try to write that? It would be crazy town.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about the enterprise, and there's many examples for this. In the enterprise, traditionally data movement was done by the ETL team, right? And that that is an extremely expensive art. And there's a lot of software engineers who would look at that and say, I can write just some code to move the data around. And that's how Spring Integration and Spring Batch became really popular, right? Starting with Accenture, who actually started the project working along with us. But then, over the last 3 years, we saw a lot of common patterns. Like, hey, it's the same stuff, right? Why do I need to write code? Why, again, can I do it more declaratively and get it on a runtime platform which is robust, is failure aware and self-healed itself. So XD became that runtime that gives engineers, software engineers, and data engineers an extremely robust way of creating those data pipelines. And as we're building this, we're not alone. I mean, Amazon went ahead and created their data pipeline service. If you've not seen that, it looks very similar, but obviously it's still very primitive. It has very limited number of sources, very limited number of destinations, very limited number of processing units in the middle. A fairly primitive UI, but they saw enough value to include that in their service, and more of the cloud platforms have started to include a similar data pipelines. I mean, I've commonly calling it as a Swiss knife of data movement. Hey, I can do anything I want. I can move data around on a batch job, on an ad hoc basis. I can transform it, and we've seen a fair number of enterprise clients essentially use it exactly for that, for those specific use cases.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, I'm ready to show this demo of a Twitter stream.
I'm just a big fan of Twitter, so this is the part where this gets fun for me.
Okay, so all right, that's great. That's good to know. Thought I had that running. Let's quickly make sure. This is 404. That's not good. I just quickly setting it up. What did I miss?
Live demos always work, right, Andrew?
That's right.
First time.
When I do them.
Especially if the guy who was supposed to give the demo was not given notice, and he was like, "Hey, want to do a cool demo?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, let's go."
Mid hangout.
No, I pulled off some live demos in my day, but I almost always was nervous about some of it, and you're yeah.
I'll get it. Just give me one more minute. You guys keep talking about something in the meantime.
What else is going on this week? Did we ever talk about the MySQL HA Galera stuff on this hangout yet?
I think the coolest thing that happened this week was we sent Josh McKenty and Cornelia Davis, both alumni of Cloud Foundry After Dark, and awesome communicators and technologists, to a Fortune 25 retailer, one of the biggest in the world, and had them do an assessment of how their agile teams worked, how their cloud platform worked, how the whole thing worked. And it was pretty fascinating to get the report out. Like, companies are coming to us and asking for help in terms of thinking about how they organize their development teams as well as their platform teams, and asking us to broker that conversation. To me, that was one of the coolest projects I saw taken on this week, and I think that's going to be a pretty big one for us to be involved in. I think starts to show the order of magnitude of just like how big of a change platform-centric thinking is for a lot of these folks. And we've become the trusted advisors to the Fortune 300 when they think about this.
I mean, it's really just the tip of the iceberg, and as you start to go and look at what this type of approach does, it can't be an island, right? It's going to change every bit of how people think about infrastructure, how they think about the deployment and delivery of all their applications.
But this is like stuff like XD to me is like really interesting in terms of how it keeps upping the platform ante, right? Like, it's not just about simple HTTP load balance distributed container runtime.
We're not here to deploy one instance of WordPress.
No, that is one of our competitors, and they're very good at that. And we cede that market wholly to them, certainly in the hosted environment.
Good luck. Have fun.
Uh, any luck, Sabby? You don't
Yeah.
need to demo this live, man. We can.
I'm ready now. I think I got it. All right, so all I had to do, as you guys saw it, right? I mean, I just put my Twitter credentials and I created a stream. So this is the first stream, as you can see there. The definition is consume Twitter stream, the source model, and log it. And then I'm creating another stream. This is nothing but I'm tapping this original stream. For example, tweets is the name of the stream. As you can see, I'm going to say tap the stream name tweets and give that data to field value counter. So this is an out-of-the-box sync module that we have. So all it does is it's going to count, increment a count every time it sees the same text. I'm interested in looking at language. I'm interested in knowing what language people are tweeting at this point. So that's that stream. And third stream, I'm doing the similar tap on the original stream, but this time I'm giving it to aggregate counter. So this is going to aggregate the same number of tag or language tag. If it repeats, it's going to aggregate that. And I'm creating another, stream. Again, I'm tapping the original stream. I'm giving it to field value counter, and this time I'm interested in this key. So this is the key. It's in tweet, the JSON response. This key will give you what is the tag name, the actual hashtag.
So if you want to watch for Charlie Hebdo hashtag counts by language, that's something you could set up a pretty simple stream to do out of the box.
Absolutely, yes. You should be able to do a specific Twitter search on a term and then give it to the field value counter. It can start aggregating it for you.
So there's a lot of companies right now that are paying big money to these marketing automation companies to just count the number of Twitter hits that they have and do some of these basic stream analysis for them.
Absolutely, yeah.
Do you think this opens up a chance for their in-house developers now to start making some dashboards? Or I think you still have access to the Twitter Firehose too. That's potentially a complication, but.
Yeah, I mean.
In fact, a few of our customers are trying to, use the Twitter stream.
Yeah, for one of the clients, we actually used WebSockets on the other side to show a true live dashboard of stuff that is streaming off of that.
Yep.
So exposing those counters and aggregates on a dashboard is extremely easy. And there is a sample app. If you just Google for Spring XD and samples, there's a sample app that actually does exactly that thing. And nothing fancy, just shows you a counter of data moving up and down.
But here is actually like this is a CIO level of coding. Like this is just giving you like a couple parameter file, like configuration parameters, and then what do you want to watch for? It's almost it's more Unix-like than it seems.
It is defined. I mean, if you see the pipe operator and the arrow, right? That's like classic Unix filters and pipes. It's like by design.
Yep. So this is really simplified.
Yeah.
So did you deploy it? Is it going to run, Sabby?
I think we lost him.
Where's Sabby? Technical difficulties. So, Arnie, what's the if you're trying to consume all of the Twitter Firehose, what would you need to keep ingest that level?
Yeah, so I don't know if I joined late, so I don't know at what point I came in, but I don't know if he showed you the option to deploy this on the cluster.
And we talked about it at a high level, but we didn't really.
Okay.
Do that.
So you can choose, once you deploy your Spring XD cluster, you can scale that cluster up and down, and then you can define your module spread. So when you define your modules in Spring XD, you can define your module spread. And the combination of XD and CF, that's where it becomes really cool. So you should be able to scale up and scale down those modules on a platform, right? To match those Twitter streams. And that's where the power of XD on CF becomes really powerful.
So are these being deployed as Linux containers as apps inside of Cloud Foundry, or this is more the virtual machine layer?
So first of all, standalone outside of CF, they're just JVMs, right, running on boxes.
Right.
On CF, they're running on VMs, not via containers.
Okay. So then in the Spring dashboard where it says container, that's kind of a namespace collision with the...
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, that is correct. Yeah. XD was created before containers were
I mean, yeah, language is hard.
Yeah. That's a good point. That's a good point. Sabby went offline. He lost internet connectivity, I think.
Well, we're right at an hour, and it's okay if we lost Savvy. I think I just wanted to have a quick highlight for folks about all the other services coming to CF.
We started a little bit after the hour. Let's give him at least a gentleman's opportunity to jump back in and show what he did, because he was right at the money shot.
Yeah. Did he speak about the fire hose and the XD integration?
He just you just mentioned that there were some people trying to use it.
No. The CF fire hose and XD integration that's coming up.
I did not hear that discussed.
Okay. No, and we didn't even speak about this
integration with the CF fire hose.
Yeah. I don't think we spoke about the fire hose on this session yet, right?
Nope.
Jake? Yeah. So that should be a nice sneak preview that we can combine those together. Maybe next Sunday we speak about the fire hose, and the following week or maybe the same day we combine, the easy ingestion of those fire hose events through the XD service.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. CF itself is a producer now, given our metrics pipeline that Andrew's a big fan of things to consume. And so using a CF service itself to consume that data is pretty awesome.
Yeah, and I think the roadmap is it starts off as you can pretty much do anything you want with the stream, similar to what we will hopefully show with the Twitter stream, right? Just that's replaced by the events and the metrics streaming off of the CF platform. But depending on how we evolve this from a roadmap standpoint, you could have a full-blown, Lambda-style programming framework.
Just looking at the, I haven't taken this for a test drive or anything, but you have the sinks and the sources and those adapters, and you could already just imagine, grab something from the Twitter fire hose and put that into my RabbitMQ, or grab something from my Internet of Things and then put that into whatever. It's got the MQTT stuff. It's got a bunch of these other things already pre.
Savvy said that a fire alarm went off at his condo place. Run outside.
We'll take that as an omen.
Fire hates Cloud Foundry. What can we say?
That must be the Twitter fire hose. I don't know what he searched for.
We have angered the fire gods.
Oh man.
If Sag's not coming back, unless anyone has some other parting thoughts for the two viewers we have, what else is there to say? I think it's pretty exciting to see all this come together.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Arnie.
One thing I'd like to add is, I know we saw a lot of the command line stuff, which 90% of my peeps would actually love, but for the rest of the 10% who like to dabble in UIs, in the next month and a half, there's an extremely slick HTML5-ish UI that's coming on top, so you can drag and drop, snip and snap, that stream creation, those filters, connections, and all that slick stuff. So stay tuned, and you'll see some amazing stuff come.
That's very cool, and I think that just shows the era we are in terms of the weight of the kind of data you're using, right? You used to, want to replace paper, and to replace paper like a traditional operational, relational database made a lot of sense. And now we're like, well, we live in a world of constant data generation that's all connected over the internet. How are we going to reason and manage that? Like what Microsoft Excel looks like in 5 years might have a lot more of this real-time stream-based logic right in it. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's definitely we're building the future.
Trying.
All right, with that, I think we'll call it a night. Monday Eve, time to get up and.
Hey, when are we announcing your big hire, Andrew? When's your big hire being announced?
When you mean the one that started already?
I started already, but we haven't leaked it yet.
We're not going to leak it here.
I know we're not going to leak it here, but what date are we leaking it?
It will happen. It will happen soon. We're playing the long game, Waters.
Playing the long game. Well, no one's going to hear it right now, but okay, that's fair.
Everyone will know. We have more than one, right? So
I didn't even mention the other ones.
the
What do
other,
Yeah. What do you think of our new Cloud Foundry executive director?
the one that we didn't mention already. Yes.
Not mentioned. What do you think?
Hopefully he's in the saddle by the middle of next week.
He's committed. He's watching right now. That's all I'll say. So hopefully he's laughing.
All right.
All right. See you, man.
We're great at keeping secrets over here.
Yeah.
All right. Till next time.
Peace, guys.